Hi, I'm Graham Elwood, political vigilante. Ooh, look what we put there. Some kind of Cape Crusader and some sort of bat signal. Playing with the set, guys. The set's getting crazy. It's not just me home alone with an iPhone and some lights. This is what happens when my girlfriend goes to work. I turn this place into a weird palace. So I want to talk about weird palace. That doesn't make any sense. There's an article in truthdig.com by Steven Rosenfeld titled "Trump's Tweets Are a Sideshow. His Executive Orders Are Building a Corporate State." Oh my goodness. So we've been talking about this a lot in multiple videos that I've shot. And the fact that he has put ExxonMobil in the State Department, like everyone he's hired has been like a climate change denier and from some big corporation that doesn't like any progressive regulatory anything. And what this article goes into is basically how the crazy tweets to get everybody all mad. He says this thing is really to distract everyone from the fact. I'm sure Bannon is just telling them, yeah, tweet some crazy shit to sign all these executive orders. And also the article goes into how he needs then not just sign the executive orders, but he needs Congress to then approve the law, and he signs off on it, and then it becomes a full-on law. And also, as I've talked about in other videos, controlling the regulators, the people, like I did the one about he hired a coal lobbyist to control, he's going to be the one prosecuting environmental crimes. So that's what he's been doing all over the place. And what's happening is he's been going after a lot of any progressive laws. And what's interesting is, and this article goes into it, I didn't quite know this, but it makes sense if you think about it. So the GOP controls, the House and the Senate, and they control 24 state legislatures, but something like 73% of all major cities of the 40 top cities have Democratic mayors. So it shows you, and it's something else we've talked about on this show, it's really how the Democratic Party has failed, because a majority of Americans like progressive policy. They just don't like the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is, just Goldman Sachs war party with a rainbow flag and a pro-choice sticker. So this article is very, very interesting. TruthDig, I've done some stuff. I've been turned on to their website. It's a very interesting website. I would go to truthdig.com because you're going to get some, obviously not mainstream media. So here's another thing. How his, and the house of cards, the domino effect of Trump's policies, like the travel ban. Did you know that large portions of the doctors in rural areas in America are physicians? We have a physician shortage in America, I just found out. And many of the physicians are from the banned countries because they were trying to escape tyranny and depression, and they came to good old USA where they could be a doctor in a small town and everybody loves them. Well, now there's a travel ban, so that could pose a house of cards for healthcare in addition to repealing Obamacare. So take the travel ban. If upheld, thousands of the doctors across rural America are from the countries targeted by Trump, a new analysis by 538.com reported. It's no secret that the U.S. faces a physician shortage in many parts of the country, especially when it comes to doctors in relatively low-paying specialties like primary care and psychiatry. Add to that whatever is done to undermine Obamacare and Medicaid, and one set of dominoes lining up and poised to fall. A possible doctor shortage in the regions that elected Trump is only the start. Since taking office, a mixture of Trump's executive orders, now proposed legislation in Congress, and directives by just installed agency heads, the first in a coming wave of appointees, is taking aim to destroy a swath of policies adopted to enhance public health, protect the environment, and help ordinary Americans by curbing corporate greed. Oh boy. So this is the thing. The Republican Party has been very good at, when Obama was in charge, of demonizing Obamacare and demonizing any sort of environmental legislation as, oh, the left is, they're hippies, they're trying to protect and they're getting in the way of business. So, well, both parties have basically said the Republicans have said we're good and the Democrats are bad, and the Democrats have said we're good and the Republicans are bad. And what that is a great distraction to keep everybody fighting with each other while the corporations just do awful, evil crap. Let's not forget that it was Clinton that deregulated the banks in the final weeks of his presidency at the end of 2000. Gore had finally conceded the Florida thing in 2000, okay, and they just quietly deregulated a lot of banks. Oh, man. So, and the other thing too, so what this article goes into is, as I said, some of the specific progressive things that GOP, not just House and Senate, but also state legislatures are now feeling like they can go after minimum wage, LGBT rights, paid sick days, gun control, natural gas drilling, and immigration sanctuaries passed in cities where Democrats rule and reside. So California is basically, as I've talked about, is drawing like a blue wall the whole state because we have a Democrat, with very progressive Jerry Brown, who has saved California from financial problems twice as the governor. And California is fighting back, and some other states are fighting back. What states that have, like Austin, Texas, is starting to catch a lot of flack. Austin, Texas is a progressive city, and they have progressive politicians there, and the rest of Texas is now coming down hard on them. And that, you're going to find that any sort of progressive city in the middle of a red state that's trying to fight Trump is going to have distinct problems. If people had a sense of the number of threats to local decision making there are either under consideration or that have already been passed by legislators, their heads would spin. Democrat Andrew Gilliam, the mayor of Tallahassee, Florida, told Pew Trust Stateline in a new piece forecasting more conflict. Tallahassee, Florida, usually it's a swing state, but it's pretty red in many ways. The mayor of Tallahassee is a Democrat. Trump's executive orders may be vague, overreaching, and even unconstitutional in some cases, promising more than intricate legal gears of government can deliver, but they set an unmistakable tone and direction. To review, his first was to overturn Obamacare, followed by freezing new federal regulations and hiring of non-military employees, barring funds for international family planning, reviving the Keystone Pipeline and the Dakota Access Pipeline, speeding up issuing of permits to thwart environmental impact review, building a Mexican border wall, expanding the federal deportation machine, deregulating Wall Street finance rules, and more. This is what he's done in 3 weeks? So let's go into, so we've paid attention to, and the mainstream media is covering the big thing. Oh, Betsy DeVos and Jeff Sessions, which should be paid attention to. But then we're going to go into some names you probably haven't heard that Trump has appointed and what they're doing. This is going to get interesting and fun. For example, let's look at the Federal Communications Commission just did after Trump elevated Ajit Pai, an ex-lawyer for Verizon who was in the panel's minority of Republicans under Obama, as its new chairman. Under Pai, the FCC released a dozen directives. The FEC released a dozen directives further privatizing the internet in ways that prey on consumers. Boy, they're going to come after they want to come after the internet. They want to make more money from it, and if they can control it, because this is the one thing they can't control. He, meaning Pai, stopped 9 companies from providing discounted high-speed internet service to low-income individuals. He withdrew an effort to keep prison phone rates down. And he scrapped an effort to break open the cable box market, the New York Times reported. A Wall Street industry analyst said, the speed of the ruling and the chairman's tone are very encouraging to internet service providers. Oh boy. I think it's a down payment on cutting net neutrality with much more to follow. Pai didn't need Senate confirmation, which is the case for thousands of federal appointees each president makes. As Matt Wood, policy director for Free Press, said, the public wants an FCC that helps people. Instead, it got one that does favors for powerful corporations that its chairman used to work for. I mean, this is like shouldn't be shocking at all. A guy that's going to come in that's going to pass rules that are going to benefit the cable and internet companies, which it's unbelievable. I mean, here's another fun one. All of Trump's finalists to lead the Food and Drug Administration want to reverse decades of precedent for approving new drugs. One contender, Jim ONeill, a former Health and Human Services Department official, who is an associate of Peter Thiel, Trump's friend and Silicon Valley billionaire, wants people to use drugs, quote, at their own risk. It doesn't even want the FDA, which really is, I'm not a huge fan of it, but now they're going to be completely irrelevant. These guys want to just deregulate everything so they can make as much money as possible. And I don't know if the Main Street and the Rust Belt people are going to wake up to how badly this guy that they voted for is fucking up everything. Like everything. No regulatory arm, like all these things that we don't maybe even know are there or just sort of take for granted. Gone. Why should poor people get lower internet rates? Yeah, to screw them. Screw the poor. It's unbelievable, man. I can't even. It's a parallel legislative effort now underway would redefine science to make issuing health regulations almost impossible. Stanton Glantz, a UC San Francisco professor who has long studied and criticized the way tobacco companies have flouted public health laws, wrote to his listserv on Monday. Glantz is referring to a bill slated for a hearing Tuesday in the White House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology that would limit the research that can be used by the Environmental Protection Agency for drafting industry curbing regulations. They're going to stop them, not even allow them to get as much research. It's unbelievable. I don't know what's more scary, the Nazis in the White House or just these corporate guys who are going to just enjoy this free video content, guys, for now. Who knows if they're going to shut this down or Google's going to get in bed with one of these assholes, Google, who owns YouTube. Oh, man. Sharon Lerner reported in the Intercept.com, this science curtailing approach, which was based on a strategy cooked up by tobacco industry strategists more than 2 decades ago by limiting EPA to using data that can be replicated or made available for independent analysis. The problem with that standard, she wrote, is health research often contains confidential personal information that is illegal to share, thus thwarting precise replication and laws protecting the public. Another part of the bill would allow industry to keep much of its own inner workings and skewed research secret from the public while delegitimizing studies done by researchers with no vested interest in their outcome. It's unfucking believable, man. I keep reading this shit and I'm like, are you kidding me? Every day I wake up and think, oh, this isn't going to be. Yeah. But this isn't new. This deregulation shit has been happening since the 70s. From a Wall Street standpoint, we had no major financial crises in the 50s and 60s because of all of this regulatory legislation put in place by FDR after the stock market crash, after the Depression, right? He was voted in, not immediately, but he was voted in after the Depression to fix America, and he put in all this regulatory stuff in there so that this couldn't happen again. The stock market couldn't, the banks, and the FDIC, and all this stuff. And then we had World War II, and then we came out of World War II as a superpower and started our economic dominance. And part of what helped our economic dominance grow was regulation. Fuck me, man. It's just unbelievable. They want to go after everything. They want to go after everything. I'm sorry. Democrats controlled 78% of the nation's 40 largest cities. So the majority of people want progressive stuff. That's why we need real progressives in the Democratic Party to stop him. It's unbelievable. So go to truthdig.com and check this out. Graham Elwood. Like it and hit the subscribe button and share it out to the world and tell people. Everyone needs to wake up and pay attention. And know every time there's some Trump tweeted this crazy thing about women's clothing in the White House or whatever, know that then behind the scenes there's some jackass like Pai going, oh, we're gonna stop the internet, or we're gonna charge people extra for it, or we're gonna censor it, or whatever. Graham Elwood, political vigilante.